What do you do to collect labels? I've got no idea. Probably should really do them one at a time, but, well, no. It's easier to batch them and then give them like that. So those are the labels. Put the keyboard away. Done with that. Tilt that up. Mouse done. Okay. Good to go. First order, 5 items. It's got Korean Battle Partners. Rule of the Black Flame. Paradise Dragona, Super Electric. And then a Japanese White Flare. Japanese White Flare coming in, so that is going to go in one of these special boxes, which I used to hate, but they're actually all right. They're all right when you're stocking Japanese. 7 by 7 by 7, and they actually fit 4 Korean and 1 Japanese pretty perfectly. Could get another Japanese on top. So that's going in. We're going to put a bit of stuffing down the side. Tight, and then a bit more to fill that in completely. And then cover the top, and that should do it. And close it up, seal it up, and then get the label on, track 48, and get a bag out. That goes in the rudimentary 48 box. Going to palm that, just about. Palm that and get that in there. And let's see what we've got next. 1 white flare, 1 black bolt. Still really popular, the black and white sets. I think that the black and white sets, obviously, they don't have the same pull as 151, you know, but with all those ARs, it's just a great set to rip. And if you're going to master set any set, it would be the one with all the ARs. So, yeah, just staying popular. I think the Megas, it's got the hype being the new Mega set, the new rarities. I don't know how it's going to stand the test of time. You know, with Inferno X coming out, it's just like that is the set. And it's the third order, so going to put in a pack. Inferno X is going to be the Mega set, and Mega Dream coming out. I think Mega Symphonia and Mega Brave are going to be overtaken. They're just not going to keep up with the hype, in my opinion. I think they're a good base set. I do like Scarlet and Violet base though. I think it's a pretty good set. I like the Gardevoir line a lot. I think there's some other really nice artwork in there that, in my opinion, carries it. But I know base sets in general. Well, base sets in general, that's the thing. It's sort of something new happens with Pokemon. But with the Megas, what new happened? There wasn't really. It doesn't feel like a change. It doesn't feel like, oh, we're entering a new era of Pokemon. There've been new Mega Evolutions, so that's, you know, sort of like a new generation. We've got a new era of Pokemon, or some new Pokemon, sort of. 50% of a new Pokemon, something like that. So it does feel a bit new in that respect, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not so convinced about the longevity as we get further into the Mega Block, however long the Mega Block lasts, that it will be a popular set. Another thing that's sort of, I don't know, maybe on the sort of more negative side of Pokemon, or the sentiment of the hobby, is just the idea that obviously the Pokemon hobby exists on nostalgia. I think that's fair to say that there's a lot of nostalgia tied to the hobby, not exclusively. I'm not saying they're the only people who buy the hobby. are ones who have nostalgia for it. But you would say that a majority of the bigger money spending that takes place in things like Pokemon, takes place in things like Lego, are down to nostalgia. And you see people saying online that if kids can't get packs these days, then they're not going to have nostalgia for Pokemon. So are they really actually going to want to buy it when they're 10, 15 years older and have no connection to it? And I just don't agree with it. I don't think it actually matters that much, or as much as people think. And I mean, personally, from my experience, I never really ripped Pokemon packs when I was a child. I would rip Yu-Gi-Oh! If I had any money, it was going towards Yu-Gi-Oh! That was really what I was doing. But now I don't play Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't keep up with Yu-Gi-Oh! At all. I look at it sometimes and it's like, I have no idea what is going on. Yu-Gi-Oh! Makes no sense to me anymore. Because I was at the year when I was having the constructed decks, the Joey deck, the Kaiba deck, Pegasus deck. That was what I remember from Yu-Gi-Oh! And really it was about dueling. I wasn't really ripping it to collect. It would be, we'd play it at school and I would play it with my brother as well. That was my experience with TCGs as a child. I actually played the game. Occasionally played Pokemon, mainly at home, but as in the card game, but nothing really major aside from that. And yet that is what I collect now. And even though probably less than double figures in terms of packs that I ripped as a child, I only really remember ripping them on holiday. Legends Make It EX is the main one I remember. So not even in English. Majority of cards that I got were from friends. I remember that I really liked looking at Pokemon cards. And I don't know, I honestly don't really remember. I wish I did. What drew me into it? Because I remember I had these books as a child, like Pokemon I Choose You. There's that one where like Charizard evolves, being disobedient, and then an Aerodactyl comes out and they kind of fight. I don't know what story that is, where that's from. But I remember that. I presume they were just sort of ripped off or they were book versions of the anime. So I remember having those, I think from a charity shop as well. Cards from a charity shop, then obviously the games. Pokemon Emerald being the first game that I had. But again, I had no idea whether I had Pokemon Emerald first, looked at some cards. I know that I had a friend who played Crystal a lot. That was their first game. And so maybe that was my connection. That was sort of the in through them. And there was the video games, which I think is quite natural. But brings into the point that I had nostalgia for Pokemon because of the other media. And the TCGs became that sort of, collecting urge that I had. And that I wanted to fulfill. And Pokemon was that. So that's one of the reasons why I don't think, because I didn't need it as a child. The other reason is that I see loads of people saying that their kids are getting back into Pokemon, or they're getting back into Pokemon and introducing it to their children because of the cheap price point of Korean Pokemon cards. So English isn't the only way to have a connection. I can easily see that you would rip Pokemon as a child, in Korean maybe, and then when you're older, you decide, I want to rip it in English. That is the more premium product. That's the one that seems to be more desirable in the general space. So that's the one I want to rip. Or you just play the games, and that's where you've had your connection to Pokemon. Maybe you're a collector. If you're playing Pokemon, obviously Pokemon just lends itself so well to a collectible card game, which it is for many people, because that is the point of Pokemon. It is all about the collection, and that's simply what people like about it. So, chances are there's good crossover in terms of that if you're playing the games. So much of the way that we interact with things now is through just watching content. So whether you're watching streams, whether you're watching stuff on Whatnot, TikTok, on YouTube, just videos of people ripping. There are ways to live through other people, to connect with the hobby through other people. And you see huge Pokemon challenges, you know, Deep Pocket Monsters, PokeRev, Leonhart, but he's still, I don't know, although I know he's getting a lot of heat. I didn't watch the video. I just see thumbnails of drama, and you know, sometimes that is just enough to keep up. However, you see that they're very popular channels, and that clearly people are watching it. People are interested in the Pokemon hobby. And are they all ripping packs? Who knows? Probably not. But it's just people who enjoy watching it. I watched a lot of YouTube when I was young, even though I didn't necessarily play the games. But I saw, I don't know why I've taken that label off. Great. You know, a lot of games that I never played. A lot of things that I never could experience myself because I just wouldn't get bought them. I didn't have the money for it. And eventually I did. And then if I was still interested, I could go back and rip it. So I think there are many ways for someone to be nostalgic for something, even if they never actually had it. And sometimes I can create more nostalgia because you never had the thing. So now you just really want to go out and get the thing and experience what you didn't have as a child. You know, for me, it was the same with Lego. You know, a lot of Lego was passed down from my parents' generation. My uncle was that Lego. It was a Lego from them. And then, yeah, you know, we'd get a few sets. Understandably, now that, you know, you grow up and you see what the price of Lego is. Kind of crazy. That box upside down, but it does not matter. Kind of crazy, just the price of it. And I never got any big sets. You know, you'd see the big sets. I remember seeing all of the Lego Harry Potter stuff. You know, the Hogwarts castle, like that. I really want that. But I never got it. And to be honest, I haven't bought the Hogwarts castle from Lego at the moment. But you know, the UCS Slave one I bought. And it was just a way to reconnect with the childhood. I'm not that old, I was early 20s when I bought it. But it was just a way to reconnect. And it's not something I had when I was a child. I didn't have a lot of Star Wars Lego when I was a child. Maybe 1-2 sets. But, you know, you just find these things. You just find, well, usually, I think typically for me, is you find content and you're like, oh, I remember that. And then you want to go and experience it. And so you buy it, which is why I just don't see that again as a problem. And the final reason is that it hasn't been that long that packs have been so hard to come by. You know, we're coming up really to a year from when Surging Sparks was released. That's it. Just a year. So it's not, in my opinion. Okay, let's say that a child sees that Pokemon's really hot, or their friends are, you know, people at school are talking about it, or people they watch on YouTube are talking about it. And so they're getting the Pokemon buzz from that. They want to buy packs and they just can't get them. And then they fall out of the hobby, they drift out of it. Okay, sure. Maybe that's sort of one scenario. There are, however, children who would have been playing it well before or been collecting it well before because they'll just have been interested in. Their parents might try to find other avenues for them to enjoy it. And there are many. The different apps that you have, Pokemon Pocket, a way, you know, a gateway drug into Pokemon, let's say, or gateway into Pokemon. There is also Pokemon Go, obviously, if you want to get your child outside more. Perhaps that is the route that you go for. Or the games. So I think they're just, and this is one of the things that the Pokemon Company has done really well, and is one of the reasons it's the biggest IP in the world, that there are so many gateways into Pokemon. You don't just have to go through the cards. So, and eventually they presumably want you in their entire ecosystem. Speaking as someone who's been in their entire ecosystem and still exists in their entire ecosystem, although I haven't yet played Legends EA. So I really think that, I don't know, I'm never convinced by that. I don't know what other people think. Whether it is reasonable to assume. I'm not saying that there are no children who won't be put off by all of this. But even in that, sometimes the scarcity and the inability to have something as a child draws you in and makes you want to get it. It's like you never got to eat, McDonald's or KFC as a child, and then when you get money, you just want to say, well, why? And okay, slightly different reasons. I'm not saying that was because there was a scarcity of McDonald's or KFC. That was more just you weren't allowed to have it. But the point still stands. I didn't have this as a child, but I wanted it. Now I've got money. Now it's more available. Let's go out and get it. And it's not something that you're thinking, oh, I've got this in the back of my mind and in 10 years I'm going to get this. It's more serendipitous than that. It's just that something comes up, something catches your eye, you see content about it, you're reminded of it, a new Pokemon game comes out when you're older, and you think, yeah, I want to get back into that. I got back into Pokemon from, so the last game that I really played, the last real contact point I had with Pokemon was Black and White. Played on a DS Lite. So I was there for Generations 3. So I played Emerald. What else was there? I played Emerald, Pearl, Heart Gold. And I can't remember if I played Black or White. My brother had one, I had the other, but I just don't remember which one it was. So I played them. And that was it, really. I didn't play any Pokemon games after that. I didn't collect any of the cards. I didn't watch the anime. Anything like that. I don't think I really had any contact with Pokemon until, I remember people playing Mega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, and that was tempting. Someone whose first game was Emerald, that was really, really tempting. And I think around that time, Pokemon Black and Pokemon White, I bought a lot of the old games. So I remember I bought Pokemon Blue Complete in Box, Yellow. I bought Fire Red off eBay, a copy that turned out to be fake. I think I realised that as soon as I got it, but it still kind of worked. The box was, clearly reprinted. It was a bit glitchy, the game, in startup. I bought Pokemon Sapphire, and I don't know what else I bought. Oh, not in terms of what I bought, but just in terms of what I played. I played a lot of Mystery Dungeon. Blue Rescue Team and Explorers of the Sky were incredible games. I mean, the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series, I wish, half the care about the story. And even some of the animations. The animations in Dungeon, or of the Pokemon, they're actually pretty good. I actually quite enjoy those animations. And I think it's just such a shame that you don't have that crossover into mainline Pokemon. Obviously, okay, they're tiny sprites and they're, pixel graphics, which, to be honest, I like. I would much rather play those games than Rescue Team, was it DX? I just look at that and I'm like, not really interested in it, to be honest. I don't know. I'm not about the graphics. I'm not about the photorealism. I'd rather just get into a world that's interesting and enjoy it. And that's what Pokemon Mystery Dungeon gave you. The world building of that was fantastic. It is such a good series. And I wish they brought it back. I know I can't remember what the name of the games are, but I know there's a Mystery Dungeon series that keeps going. Shiren the Wanderer, I think it is. There was a new game recently. I looked at it. I wanted to like it, but I don't know. I just can't. It's the Pokemon for it. For me, the Pokemon aspect of it, the Pokemon world that I like, not necessarily the gameplay mechanics. And clearly that says I'm just deep in the Pokemon world. But you slap it on anything, and I'm there for it. Although I've never played Pokemon Snap, Ranger. I haven't played those games. Been a bit tempted. I'm just sort of, I don't know. Doesn't really do it for me. I will play Legends EA at some point. Maybe when there are a bit more sales. So looking into that, but at the moment it's just, I don't know, not so interested. But yeah, so that was my last real touch points were Explorers of the Sky whenever that came out, and then black or white, I don't know. So Gen 5, although the ones I really have a connection to, an affinity for, are Gen 4 and Gen 3, and mainly Gen 3. Gen 3 was my, that was my generation. That was where I wanted to put hours into. Anytime I've got an emulator to play, it's always been Emerald. Replaying it, and I had it again, a copy in French, bought on holiday. I thought as a child that, of course, you can change the language of a game. How wrong I was. You cannot change the language of a game, and that is a great shame. But it doesn't matter. I still play through it, and I'm getting really stuck the first time I played it at... Is it just after Mr. Briny? I think when you go into that cave and you reconnect Mr. Briny, you defeat that grunt. I think it's Team Aqua Grunt. You defeat them, and then you have to go back and see Mr. Briny. I never worked that out. So, what did I? And then it was something to do with Rock Smash. I say it's that point because I know that's the cave where you've got Rock Smash in it. But it was something about Rock Smash, and I just did not know. I didn't know where to go and get it. So that was the issue that I had, and I never could beat it. And I think it went on. It was either Game FAQs or IGN when they were actually useful, and got printed off a guide for the game, played through it, and I think in that guide, I was sort of running Grumpig. It was a dodgy team, but there was definitely Grumpig, and I know that's probably not the first choice. That's probably not the meta for playing through Pokemon Emerald. But I had Grumpig and some other weird choices I just can't remember. Where's Super Electric packs? I need to open another one. So that's how I actually played through it. That was some dedication playing through a French version. But it was really the only game I wanted to play when I was younger. I had it on a DS Lite. That was the only game console I had. I never had any of the other DSs. I eventually bought a 3DS a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago. And that's where I played a lot more of I started Alpha Sapphire. I don't think I completed it. Eventually I sold the 3DS. I regret it massively because they've gone up a lot since then. But also I just want to play. I would rather get a 3DS and play that than to get a Switch 2 and play Legends EA. I don't know. That's just me. I just have more nostalgia for that. Because I've still got Emerald and the DS Lite, but the 3DS, the new 3DS XL, that is an upgrade. It's a really nice console to play. And I regret not having it. But so I dropped out. No more tangents. We're focusing now. I dropped out from Pokemon at that point, and then I need to put this in for them. And then I got back into it when Let's Go came out. Those are the next games that I played. I didn't get a Switch because of it. I don't remember when I got this. I think I got it in April. I want to say April 2018. I don't know if those dates make sense. I think it was April 2018. And then what would I have done then? It was April 2018. No idea when Let's Go came out. I know that wasn't my first game. I think the first game that I got was Breath of the Wild and Mario Kart, or maybe Mario Kart was just in the box, presumably. I mean, it's Mario Kart; it's always in there. So I think that was God of War, and then I got Let's Go. Then I got Sword and Shield. I didn't get BDSP. It's like, why? I'm not interested in that. It didn't do it for me. got Legends Arceus, got Scarlet and Violet, and then I was really, I was deep back into it. Those were incredible games. As I said, well, okay, they weren't incredible games, but they're very playable. And especially Let's Go, I really enjoyed shiny hunting in Let's Go Pikachu. It wasn't the first shiny I caught. I think the first shiny I caught in there was shiny. Was it shiny Caterpie? I think it was. Doing the streaks and then catching it. I think it was a shiny Caterpie. But I had previously, which is now deleted, caught a shiny Zubat. Shiny Zubat on the French version of Pokemon Emerald, which, if you're going to catch a shiny, and if you're going to catch a shiny on a version of the game, not ideal. Although I do believe that in terms of breeding, that's actually a good thing. However, I wasn't the biggest Pokemon breeder. The Masuda method, I was not clued up on that. And I think I restarted that save, and that is gone, sadly. First shiny caught, deleted, because I did not know better. And yeah, so I actually enjoyed Let's Go Pikachu for the shiny hunting. It was a fun reintroduction to Pokemon. Let's put it that way. And I suppose, if you want to count Pokemon Go before that, somewhere it was mad, then yeah, I played that as well. But I enjoyed it. Sword and Shield, I get why people wouldn't enjoy it. But again, graphics, I'm just not there for it. I don't care. Well, you need them to a certain extent, but beyond that, I'm not so bothered about the graphics. And I've taken this card out just because I think I like the artwork. It's from a Gengar deck, the Japanese Gengar deck, and it's a Murkrow from it, and by Kamiya, I think, yeah. And I just like the artwork, and I want to keep that. So I'm going to put that in a binder of the common cards that I like, because I don't know, maybe I'm just a bit sort of what do you call it? What do you call it when when you like music that no one else likes yet? Indie? Not really indie, but I suppose it's not really hipster, is it? I don't know. I suppose it's a bit hipster. Everyone's after the full arts, so I want to, be the one who looks for the common art that people aren't appreciating, because I think there is some great artwork, and there's a lot of great lore that you find in Pokemon cards. For example, the whole Cubone stuff. Obviously, that lore's not exclusive to it, but it's just really nice to see those. To see how sad Cubone is represented on the packs, or Execute. Where are they going? Loads of Execute cards, they're sort of traveling, going through places. They're eggs. I just don't understand what was going on with all the Execute cards. So I like to collect binders of those sort of weird things. And then obviously, great Pokemon. Sort of Aerodactyl, classic Pokemon, Chatot for the Explorers of the Sky vibes. Love that. Love having a binder page related to, Pokemon Square and Pokemon Blue Rescue Team with the Kecleons, Kangaskhan and Makuhita. All the places. Just, I don't know, having like a theme and just putting it together. And they're not expensive cards. There's nothing really crazy about it. And I said there were no more tangents, but this is another tangent. They're just, I would rather look through a binder of cards and I'm like, oh, there's something behind it. Great example. Well done. But you look at it and you go, oh, these are all the Pokemon. I love Blue Rescue Team. And I might not sit down and play it, but this gives me memories. The characters that you meet in it, the different rescue teams. What is it? Act. Alakazam, Charizard, Tyranitar, or the team or Octillery's team or Blastoise's team. All of these different ones, or Shiftry in his 2 Nuzleaf. And you see them, I'm looking for Mega Brave. It's right here. And you see them and it just brings back memories for you. Or Explorers of the Sky, you know, having Sunflora. Is it Loudred, Bidoof, Krogant. Who else is there? Well, obviously there's Wigglytuff, the big one. And then you've got Skuntank. Or I was looking through, I just like looking through the Pokelector app at the different Pokemon cards that are out there. And I think it was in Sun Moon, there is I can't remember what set it's in, but there's a Skuntank. He's shooting things out of his fringe. It's like it opens up to be a cannon. And you look at that and you go, I mean, what is going on with this? Just take some Battle Pulse packs. You know, that's something that I never considered would even exist. That he's shooting, that it's even a possibility that would be where he shoots things out of. Or there's another Sun Moon one where Porygon is just mad. He's just mad. And he's shooting out some beam. And it's just interesting to see these different sized Pokemon. I also really like the Plusle and Minimon. Those cards I think are great. Plusle and Minimon cards are fantastic. I love those, not necessarily connected, but those just sort of dual artworks. So Illumeyes and Volbeat have them. There's one really good one with Sork and Throw. And it's just, it's just a standard one. It's not a full art. It's just I don't know, basic. It's hard to categorize it. I want to say, just basic cards, but obviously that has a meaning within Pokemon. You want to say that they're just common cards, but that has a meaning within Pokemon. And non-full art just seems a bit clumsy. But, they're non-full art cards. And I find it interesting to look at them. Maybe I'm a contrarian. Maybe I just don't like to go with the flow. But I'm not denying that there are some amazing full arts. I think it's definitely true. I remember when I started getting back into Pokemon cards and I bought ETBs. I bought Scarlet Violet Base, Paldea Evolved, and Obsidian Flames. I think that's SV1, 2, and 3. I might be wrong. 151 might be in there somewhere. But anyway, I bought those 3 ETBs. Every week I wanted to buy an ETB because I was catching up with the Scarlet Violet era. I'd played the games. I don't know why I wanted to look at the cards again. I don't know what it was. Whether I saw someone doing a pack opening, what it was. There wasn't really any hype though around Pokemon at that time. I just opened it, had a look, and I remember pulling the Gloom from Obsidian Flames. I pulled the Miriam full art as well from base set. I can't remember which one it was, but from base set. Well, actually, no, it was all of it. It was Scarlet and Violet. There were just 2 ETBs, but they're the same packs in, if I'm correct. But yeah, so I pulled the Miriam, beautiful artwork. The one to do with the books falling. And then that full art Gloom, which is a great card, sadly again sold. Because I was just like, I can't keep up with this. And I don't know why I sold it. I don't know why I did that. But I sold the Gloom, the Miriam, and basically all the hits that came from it. I think I got one from the Pidgey line as well in Obsidian Flames. I really wanted the Sizzle. Because it was just a great card. I like Scyther, I like Sizzle. I never got it because how are you supposed to evolve Scyther? What is that? Just those evolutions I just find annoying. But anyway, so yeah, I pull those and I can appreciate those cards. I really, I like them as much as the next person. But I think that full arts are not the be all and end all of Pokemon. Same with the Mega Ultra Rares. I don't know, I'm not into it. I don't see too much of the appeal. I personally wouldn't want to have them. Put it that way. Or I would not spend the money that they're going for to get them. nor would I want to rip a load of packs together. They're just not. I get it, they're rare, cool, but they're just not for me. Same with like the Seismitoad. It's like, I don't know. I like Shinji Kanda and his artwork. I really, that Aerodactyl in 151, the just normal card, whatever, is crazy. It is a crazy card, and I love it. I think Aerodactyl looks sick on it. Actually, sort of very destructive. I like it more than that Aerodactyl full art where he's just flying over. I don't know. For me, I would rather have this just basic hollow card, or even non-hollow, than I would want to have a full art. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's the constraints of space or what it is that makes these things so appealing. You might be wondering, what am I doing, considering I've got a whole tower of bubble wrap to my left. But I just get these from Korea. Literally, but not so I'm buying them from Korea. But they use these as packaging, and I'm just like, well, I might as well. I might as well just use these instead of going through that. One, because otherwise I'm just throwing it in the bin, and that just doesn't seem any point to doing that. And two, then I don't have to use that. I hope at some point I will use that. Sometimes you just use things to get rid of them, because I don't want these. I don't want these just to become a part of the furniture. So hopefully they'll go at some point. But that is why I am cutting up these strange pieces of bubble wrap. Anyway, so yeah, that's my feeling. That just because there's hype around something, and just because they're a crazy full art, and probably I think it's fair to say that the nicest cars that you can get are probably full arts. There are some incredible ones. The cars from Crown Zenith v Star Universe. They're amazing. There's no denying that. This is an international one, so I'll leave that for later. There's no denying that they're incredible cards. But it's just there's more. There's more to the Pokemon hobby. And I remember when I was ripping packs, and when I was looking at cards, they weren't full arts. But still, you'd look at them and you're like, wow, this is an incredible card. I love the story that it's telling. I love the world building of a card. That's why the original full arts just weren't it. When they would just have a blown up picture of the Pokemon, you could barely see the details on it. They weren't great in that respect. And it was just a coloured background behind them, which is pretty lame. I sort of, I do prefer to that, the ones which are, where the card is bursting out of the frame. So sort of what the modern EXs would represent. I suppose they were always EXs, I think, but some of them are very nice. For example, there's a Gengar in this deck. If I can find one. That Gengar, that is a beautiful card. Really, really nice card. And it's not a full art card. It's just a nice card. And I think, having that appreciation going around, that you open a pack to see what's inside, and that's, slightly brain dead sentence, but you open a pack because you want to see the different artworks, the different Pokemon. It's not just about, am I going to get the biggest chase card from the set? And I like that kind of anti-hype way of looking at things. That, great. There are people out there who just want to rip, get the most expensive card, go and send it off for grading, and then sell it. That's cool. And then there you want to go and fund and put that money so they're not losing as much money on that booster box. Fine. That is a valid way to interact with Pokemon TCG. There are people who want to play as well. Probably, if you're doing validity, an even more valid way to play. well, the most valid way to play, but an even more valid way of interacting with the TCG. So I completely understand that. But for me, I like how Pokemon was back in the good old days when I was younger. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed just opening it up and seeing the different artworks, and where a holo was actually a big deal. It was something that you cared about. It wasn't just, oh, holo, great. You know, what can I get that's better than this? But it was actually, it wasn't something to be disappointed by, especially if it was your favorite Pokemon, if it was a really cool artwork. And the artwork nowadays is very impressive. You know, you look through the sort of black, white, XY, Sun and Moon era, and some of the artwork, you know, is just so awkward with these weird backgrounds. It wasn't like a piece of art, it was a background, you had a Pokemon overlaid over it. And I'm not interested in that type of artwork. So I'm not saying there wasn't bad art, you know, it's not all good when it comes to normal or basic or common types of cards. But the artwork that we get nowadays on every single card is impressive. I think there is something to be said for every piece, every card. There's someone who will like it, who will look and be like, wow, that is a cool piece of artwork. If you take the time to go and look at it. You know, if you're not doing a pack opening and just skipping straight to the back, flicking through cards because you don't really care. And I've got a, you know, short on my pages opening a Team Rocket booster pack, and I do that. And one, you know, it's because, or booster box of Glory of Team Rocket. And one, you know, it's got to be a 1 minute video because I need to upload YouTube Shorts. So obviously it's going to be like that. Or not obviously, but it's got to be short and get to the point. And you know, what a lot of people are interested in is what are the pull rates of Korean. And honestly, the pull rates of Korean are pretty good compared to English, especially. There aren't strict guarantees when it comes to Korean, but you do sort of get some guarantees. You know, I've rarely opened a box of Korean where I've had less than 3 or 4 art rares. It just always seems to be that you're going to get 3 or 4 art rares, and more often than not, and I'm saying, you know, by a big margin, you're going to get the SAR as well. They're not guaranteed though. That is something that's important to note. They are not guaranteed, but pretty regularly you get good pull rates. Much better than English, and not as good as these, but then there is a huge difference in price. So that's the reason. Nice ace spec there. Well, I'll say a nice ace spec. You know, they are cool cards, but obviously they are trainer cards. There's, you know, everyone judges certain types of cards. They are trainer cards, and I know they're not the most collectible. When they're in rotation, they're desirable by people who are playing, I believe. I'm not so knowledgeable about the you know, the actual game scene, but yeah, not the most collectible unless you're really trying to master a set, which I think Korean is great for. And I'm trying to master some sets slowly though. I don't really have any rush to mastering sets. I'm not really that vibe. The whole sort of rush or needing to rip it, you know, just slowly picking up cards. At the moment, it's a great time to buy singles. Well, not the best time, but it's a better time than it has been for a while, as prices are going down, and people aren't sure. You know, anytime there's uncertainty in a market, prices fall. You have people selling because they just don't know, and people don't like to be caught holding the bag when there's uncertainty in the market. It's the same thing that's happening in the stock market when you have all of these geopolitical negotiations regarding tariffs. It's the same idea. That just introduces uncertainty into a market. Nobody knows what's going to happen, and people in those situations like to pull money out. And you see that happening in Pokemon because obviously there's still upside. It never goes away. But it is, and so to be honest, you are better off if you believe that Pokemon is going to stick around, then you are better off just holding and leaving it. But the problem is that a lot of people get into these alternative investments because they think that it is a quick flip. But it's never indefinite. It's not an indefinite quick flip. And it's always something that you've got to keep in mind. So you have people going into it and then they realize, oh, maybe this isn't a quick flip as I thought. And actually it's going down and I didn't have sufficient capital to allocate to Pokemon. And that's the reason. If you never are forced into a position where you need to sell, it is likely that you will make money. But people get themselves into those positions, overextend themselves, and that's unfortunately for some people where you enter into a bit of a problem. But if you are just looking to collect, then is the market healing? To an extent, you could say yes, and I think that is a good thing, for everybody. Who knows what will happen with these next releases? It's not the market isn't. Pokemon's not dead. Let's put it that way. Pokemon's not close to dying. The price that is still being commanded by some sets is still very real. And I don't believe it's just big money investors who are buying the dip. I don't think that there's any reason to do that. I think there is genuine, with some of these sets, I think there's genuinely a belief that this set is worth that amount of money. People look at Inferno X and they see that Charizard, and okay, there's not huge depth to that set, but that is probably going to be a defining card of the modern era. I think it's likely. And we'll see what happens with the Dragonite. We're going to be having a high class set coming out very soon with Mega Dream. And high class sets they're very popular. And you have some incredible artwork in them. Pokemon actually do really well with their high class sets. You look at Terrestrial Festival, Prismatic Evolutions, and you've got the Umbreon. Before that, Shiny Treasures EX with the Mew. Before that, we had V-Star Universe with the God cards, the gold God cards. You do have some incredible artworks in these high class sets, and they tend to be very desirable. So obviously we will see what happens in terms of Mega Dream. There was a post of some Dragonite card, some rumored one in Mega Dragonite with his mane flowing behind, some beautiful locks flowing behind him. So we will see how desirable that is. I think in the long term, it's a high class set. They tend to do really well. In the short term, who knows? It's really interesting because you keep expecting things to get better. Mega Dream might not be as hyped as Inferno X, but it will still be a good set. In my mind, there is no world in which Mega Dream is a bad set. So I think it will do well. People might be disappointed with it because it's Mega Dragonite, and people are disappointed with Mega Dragonite. I'm not so mad about him. To be honest, I've looked at pictures of the Megas, and it's hard really to say anything without seeing them in game. I haven't watched anything about Legends ZA because I want to sort of experience it firsthand when I do get around to playing it. But yeah, obviously Mega Dragonite, divides opinion, and depending on the Pokemon artwork can save a card. There are lots of Pokemon that I look at their artwork and I'm like, I actually really like this as a Pokemon. For example, Sableye. I do not care for it in games, in anime, in anything. That's not true actually. In Explorers of the Sky, Sableye does play a somewhat big role, and I think is interesting. But you look at some of the cards, hanging out with the gems, and it's a really nice card. But yeah, to wrap up, the kid's going to be all right. Pokemon's still going to be around 10 to 15 years. I do believe that the nostalgia is still there. I dropped out of the hobby, and that's sort of part of the reason why I think it's still there in terms of my journey with it. I think it's going to be all right. I think it's now a good time to collect. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games are the best, as are common or basic cards. Maybe not the best, but they're damn close.